So in the studio this morning, I have decided to hand over the studio almost entirely, be overwhelmed by young people. And not young people, not youth and Dala, nah? Because we have a problem in this country that when we speak to young people, we're always speaking to the 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 30-year-olds. And in fact, we like the 30-year-olds. We're like, oh, let's talk to young people. Then we've been in a room full of 30-year-olds. So this morning I decided, nah. We're going to the teenagers of the country who often don't get a voice. So I have 3 young people with me in studio this morning who are not only here because they're young, but because they've decided to raise their hands and be involved in things that happen in this country. And so, guys, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves to the Power family. Give us your name, give us your age, and also tell us where in South Africa you are from. Where are you from? Where do you locate yourself? Don't tell us your school name, because I don't want people to go and find you. Do not give me too much information. Stranger danger. But just give us your name, give us your age, and where are you guys from? Nobuntu, you want to start?
Hello, good morning, Sanbonani, Ndimacheroni.
Love it.
My name is Nobuntu Zulu and I am 16. I come from Kagiso, so I won't be specific. You can't find me.
Great stuff. Very, very cool. Vugala Hawe.
Good morning to the listeners at home or in the cars or wherever they're listening at. I am Vugala Hawe Mrauti. I am 17, almost 18, almost a legal voter. And I live in Kagiso.
Great stuff. And then we have Tuto.
Hey, now I feel old. Greetings, everyone. My name is Tuto Mdungisi and I'm currently 22 years of age. I'm an SRC member at the University of the Witwatersrand.
Very cool. And you guys have in common that you've all worked with Engage Youth, yeah? So shout out to Lesego and the team there at Engage for keeping young people so engaged that they are able to be here with us on Power Breakfast on this Youth Day. So I want to start with each of you, and I want you to give me your sense of what do you think, for those of us who are older people living in South Africa, we all assume that, oh, I was 15 once. I know exactly what it feels like to be 15. I was 22 once. I know exactly what it's like to be 20. Give us a real picture of what it feels like to be 15, 17, or 22 in South Africa today. How do you describe that experience? Bugala, how? You want to start with us?
So being a teenager in this day and age in South Africa, young people, older people look at it as if it's still the 19th where we're still struggling for freedom. It seems like we don't have our own problems as they look at it because we are born free, as they call it. But in actual fact, we have a lot of weight put on our shoulders. It's a lot of pressure. They expect us to be perfect in a sense that is impossible. Good grades, perfect image in front of them and all those. And I think it's unfair, and we really do go through a lot in terms of our mental health, and schoolers a lot, and they don't understand that.
Yeah. So there is this expectation that you guys should just feel so grateful that things are better for you.
Yes.
Without a lot of empathy for what it actually feels like for you guys as well. Tuto, what has it been like for you? What is the experience of being young in South Africa today?
Well, being young in this day and time actually is very hard. I find it's very hard in a sense that many young people find themselves actually struggling to make ends meet, most especially in an economy that seeks to actually advance young people in paper. But in reality, there is nothing of that sort. You find that a lot of young people find themselves in corners today. Most of them are graduates. Others have skills, but there is no employment opportunities in most especially in townships. So it is very hard to be a young person in this day and time. And you're, as she said, that you are supposed to be grateful for what you have, of which it's really nothing to a certain extent, you understand?
Yeah. Nubuntu?
I think it's really hard. I think it's really hard because, like she said, that we need to be grateful. And in another sense, there's a lot of apathy now because when you have so much pressure on you and everyone tells you that your life is fine and everyone tells you that you don't have problems, you kind of have this thing where you just don't care, or you start invalidating your problems as well. So it's very stressful. There's a lot of pressure now, and people end up just not wanting to do things because they just feel like there's no point in doing it anymore.
Right. So your generation has been accused of being apathetic, of not caring. People say young people don't care. You guys just want to be on TikTok. There's nothing, there's nothing that you have in terms of political consciousness. What do you say to that? When people say you guys do not care, what do you say to that? Anyone?
I just have a question. Do they give us the opportunity to care? Or when we do care about something, do they actually validate it? Do they say, no, that's something that it's good that you care about that? Or do they say, oh, you guys care about dumb things, you don't care about the right things? So it also it stereotypes us, because there are youth activists. I mean, back then, I'm sure there were people youth who also just didn't want to take part in changing South Africa, but then there were the activists that changed things. So to say that we don't care is to stereotype us, and to say that the people who do care basically don't matter. They are not seen.
Right. And it is this kind of idea that you're only talking about the young person that you are looking at the time. And then it's a matter of all young people don't care. But what are the things that you guys care about, right? And how do we know that you care? What is the demonstration of young people's care?
I think young people do care. And that is evident through actually the mass mobilization that they have been making throughout the whole country. I'll show one instance where young people did care, actually, considering the fact that there is a high rise of GBV cases in South Africa. Look at how social media is buzzing in terms of those particular, and more people are coming forward exposing their own stories because of the youth cares engages in these particular matters. And you saw also during the Justice for Kwekwe thingy, where a lot of students came out in these intellectual hubs, which is your Braamfontein vicinity, your Cape Town vicinity, where a lot of students took it to the street to say, actually, we are tired of this particular thing. But as she said, do they give us the opportunity to say, actually, do we care? You understand? Where you find that when young people in particular try to voice out their concerns, they are being faced with silence treatment, where they are being told to say, actually, you are young, you're inexperienced, and all of those things. And that happens a lot, most especially in institutions of higher learning, in politics, even in our communities. When you try to take up an initiative, you are being told to say that you are young. So young people do care, but they are demoralized by old people. I'll say that old people demoralize young people into making and contributing to the change of South Africa.
So Tutu, you said something. You said that young people don't feel heard in this country, and that for me is something I want us to unpack, because people will say, well, why don't you just speak up? Why don't you just take the space? Why don't you just take up the space? Or and other people saying, also, we all talked out. Like, why are you still talking? Why are we still talking? Government must just do things. Do you believe that young people have something to say that is not being heard in this country?
I believe so. You know what? One thing is that we find ourselves saying that young people do not talk and all of those things. And yes, they are invited into these big tables and all of those things. But it's a thing of, we find that the government uses a tick box mechanism, where there is some sort of tokenism that happens, where young people are just used as passive voices, not as active voices. That is what we find in our current landscape of South Africa.
Buhala, maybe just to bring in that question about where young people are talking and what are they talking about, or where there's youth activism, what is that activism about? We heard about issues around GBV, but in the communities that you live in, that you are busy organizing in, what is it that young people say they care about?
Mostly, I just want to refer back to what Tuta said a few seconds ago. Young people are given the platform, right? But it kind of seems like a waste of time, because as they're given a platform, we are being heard. They hear us. They take our ideas, and they are theirs now. because they have the power to call us and not call us back when it's time for their action. They just call us, say, oh yeah, we hear you. And while we think that nothing is happening because we are not being called back, we just see your idea floating around there, acting as if it's theirs. That's why they say young people have nothing important to say. That's why they say young people have they don't have anything they can add into this politics world and whatever.
And when you say take action, what are you hoping young people's involvement in action can look like? And I say this again on the basis that a lot of times people judge youth activism and action by what's happening on the streets. Are you guys on the streets? Are you mass mobilizing? Are you doing what happened with Justice for Twekwe? But are there other ways that young people would like to be involved and take action? What does taking action perhaps look like in your eyes, Nobuntu?
I believe taking action, we've seen, like you said, the ones on the street and all that, but I believe more youth should have a say in terms of parliament, in terms of the way the country is being run, because we are the majority population in this country, and there are a lot of young, bright minds that really want a change in this country, but you find that most people that are in the government, that are having a say on how we do things. Imagine, like, they are the youth of yesterday. And if you think about it, today's youth, the education shouldn't be the same as yesterday's youth, because like if you think about it, the way the world is shifting and the way demands are also changing, people need a say on, people need to learn different things now. There's different demands in this world, but we find that there's still old systems, and then they say that we don't want to participate. We're not given the chance to actually improve our country, because there's only so much you can do on the ground level. At some point, you're going to need to move up, but nobody is letting anyone move up.
But guys, Frederick Douglass, who was an activist a very long time ago in the US, a civil rights activist, says that power concedes nothing without a demand, right? So are you guys as young people ready to take power? So there's one thing about waiting for power, but I think you guys have waited long enough. What does it look like to take power? And are you ready to take power? Tuto, you look like you're about to burst out in a secret.
I mean, young people have been trying to take power.
Yeah, why have
but
you not
you find
succeeded,
that
guys?
most of these spaces are being gate-kept by old people who come and just sit around and sleep in parliament, you understand, instead of making policies and actually making sure that young people are being... They grow, you understand? You find that in certain spaces where young people exist, those spaces are seen as if they are spaces that do not seek growth, that do not seek any liberation, you understand? You find that many young people in spaces like your parliament, like your, as she has alluded, they are there. They are making changes. But if you see how they are conceived by also the public to say that young people are very disrespectful, it cannot be disrespect when I'm addressing you on a particular matter that seeks to advance my life. You understand? You find that when we come into spaces, we try to speak for ourselves, we advocate for ourselves. We're being shut down. Our doors are being shut down because of we are young. Yeah. One thing of being a crime in this country that I've seen is that you being young actually, it chops you from a lot of things.
But on the other hand, on that front, how do we break that? How do we change that pattern? How do we break through those barriers? Because I have a funny feeling, guys. Okay, so as my generation, let me be serious. I'm in my 40s, right? And my generation, I've been telling my peers, guys, we must be the bridge for the 20-year-olds and the teenagers of today to not have to fight as hard to get get a space in the room, right? And we are going to have to be sacrificial, and it might have been my time to lead. I'm going to have to be led by a young person. So there are some of us who are thinking like that, but we also need young people who are going to step up and say, I'm willing to lead. Look, I'm ready to have you lead me. are you ready to lead? Are you ready to take up the leadership and contest? Are you guys going to do that work?
I am ready. I am ready to fight. As one other young person once said in one of our dialogues that Engage and YMCA once hosted, that we need to be more aggressive, but we need to start being aggressive on the lower ground so that we can get higher. Because what I've noticed is that many young people want to start at very high standards, high grades. We must start at our lower phases, like in our provinces, municipal areas.
Yeah,
that's where we must start. Like how we how we do initiatives and Engage. We tackle matters in our communities.
Yeah.
That's where we start confronting whoever's in charge and we try to see what is happening, how we trying to fight this, how we gonna find solutions in this.
And let's talk about the work that you guys have been doing through structures like Engage. This morning we were speaking to one of the 1976 activists, and she was saying that the way that they did it wasn't just that they woke up one day and they went to the streets. They organized for weeks and months before they were able to go onto the streets. Talk to us about some of the organizing that you've been involved in as teenagers and young people that you believe is starting to shift the needle. Nwabonto, do you want to start with that one?
Can I use one of the initiatives we did as an example?
Please.
So we had a food drive, and the thing is, we had been talking about it since last year and the end of last year, and we had been planning all these things, collecting money, because the money we have to make it ourselves. So there's a long process that we had to do. We had a tight budget, and I feel as though that also teaches you how to adult in a way. It teaches you how to grow as a person and how to be responsible as well. And I feel that work also, we met this really kind couple when we were doing that food drive, and they were just so touched by what we were doing. And even if it might not be a large scale thing, it really is beautiful to see that some people didn't go to sleep hungry that day, and we had food extra, so we started giving as well. So it was just really nice to see the impact that we had on people. We even prayed with them. They were just really sweet and grateful. So I believe that us doing these things is teaching us to be more human as well.
So Tuto, some examples of organizing that young people are doing?
Well, I like to say and allude on matters like how actually Engage SA, organizations like Engage SA tend to have your civic leadership and community engagement programs that seek to advance many young people. I think I've learned one or two things from those particular engagements which have led to being a leader that I am at my school, which led me to actually achieving a lot of things and making sure actually I start from a small scale level into advancing and making sure that young people find themselves in a space that doesn't exclude them, that doesn't seek to actually find themselves not growing. Understand? I think those types of initiatives like your civic leadership that teaches also voter registration, that teaches people the basic needs actually of how to survive, most especially in this current political landscape. Understanding what is happening and being conscious of what is happening around you can assist in making sure that we actually make the right decisions that can make this future generation not to be a wasted generation.
And again, it re-emphasizes the point of needing spaces for engagement. Your whole organization is called Engage. And sometimes we say we just need to take action, but good action is a product of great engagement. Yes. Good action is a product of productive, well thought through ideas. And I've seen young people in spaces come up with amazing ideas, right? And I'm about to come to you now, Bongala, about your experiences of activism. But it just reminded me of a story with a group of young people, and I'd asked them what they would change about South Africa if they could do something radical. And a 21-year-old said to me she would do away with local government altogether. She said, let's scrap the whole of local government and let's start over with a system where communities are forced to create budgets for their own projects, and National only funds those projects that communities ask them to fund. And I was like, oh, I would do that. I loved the idea of saying there's too much bureaucracy and let's just get into the business of doing things. Young people know what they want. Communities know what they want. Let's only fund the things the community say we should fund. And I thought, nah, these young people actually know exactly what it is that they want. But Vungala, what is your experience of activism and organizing been?
While organizing events, we tend to... There's this program I'm part of called the Junior Student Council, where it's a group of learners that we invite in from schools to be part of the municipality's junior councillors, where we shadow actual senior councillors. And we try to hold the senior councillors accountable for what is happening in our communities, what is happening in our areas. And that's where we ask them, what is going on in this area, to be precise? What is happening? We need to know. We demand answers from them so that we know that what we have to do, take it from them or what happens. So we don't really... I'm not gonna say we are disrespectful, but we ask for it. We don't ask for it. I don't know how to put this.
No, you're right. You're not waiting to be
Yes.
given something. You're ready to take it, and I think that's important, guys. In the last minute that we have, I can't let you go here without you saying to me, what is your hope for young people in South Africa? So I'm going to ask each of you down the line, just share short, sharp, your hope for South Africa.
For young people.
Yep.
I hope that young people find the strength in them to actually take what they want and to be the activists that they need to be.
Love it. Vugala?
I just want to see young people engaging more, because I've noticed that young people aren't really as interested, although they are. I just want to see young people pushing harder, not asking for it and just being aggressive and taking anything that we need to put us out there.
Great stuff. Tuto?
I want young people to be economically liberated, to be able to fend for themselves, to find themselves actually making decisions instead of being passovers. You understand?
Great stuff. That is Tuto Hleze Mwala Maulauzi and Nobunto Zulu. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me this morning. Thank you for your work and the courage that you take every day to get up and make this country better. You are the 76th generation of today. You're not just, talking about it or thinking about it. You're getting up and you are organizing for change. And I really, really appreciate your work, your effort, and your time with us this morning on Power FM.